aspire to a clean career, leaving no shame for descendants. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Encountering Chinese Case Stories. Cases judged by Bao Gong. Today, I'm going to bring you a story called Riverside Pavilion. In the town of Kaifeng, there lived a wealthy man named Wu Shi, known for his open-mindedness and fondness for befriending scholars. Wu Shi's wife, Xia, was known for her beauty and alluring charm. Among Wu Shi's close friends was Han Man, another refined individual who frequented Wu's home. Xia often flirted with Han Man with her words, but Han Man always treated her with utmost respect, regarding her as his own sister-in-law, and never engaged in any inappropriate behavior. One winter day, as snowflakes danced in the air, Han Man came to visit Wu Shi, hoping to enjoy the snow scenery together, only to find out that Wu Shi had gone to his farm and hadn't returned yet. Learning of Han Man's visit, Xia quickly went out to greet him, wearing a smile on her face, and invited him inside. She personally prepared wine and food for Han Man in the kitchen and served it to him, while she sat beside him, accompanying him with drinks. As the wine flowed, Xia said, "It's cold today. Is your wife waiting for you at home to share a drink together?" Han Man replied, "My family is not wealthy. Although we have some wine and food, it's nothing compared to the abundance at the Wu's residence." Xia, with a teasing glint in her eyes, poured herself a full glass of wine, stood up, and offered it to Han Man, saying, "Take a sip and see how it tastes." Startled, Han Man recoiled and said, "You can't do this. If the servants of the Wu household see this, I'm afraid I won't be able to be friends with Wu Shi anymore. Please refrain from such actions in the future." With that, Han Man pushed away from the table and left. Just as he reached the door, he saw Wu Shi returning home through the snow. Upon seeing Han Man, Wu Shi wanted to detain him, but Han Man said, "I have urgent matters to attend to today and can't stay to chat." With that, he left directly. Wu Shi returned home and asked Xia, "Han Man came to our house as a guest. Why didn't you keep him here?" Xia angrily replied, "This is the kind of friend you associate with. He came intentionally knowing you weren't home. I kindly prepared wine for him out of goodwill, but he mocked me and left in disappointment. You go ask him what he has to say." Wu Shi, half believing, dared not go out to question him. A few days later, on a clear day in spring, Han Man learned that his uncle Wu Lan was in Suzhou on a business trip and had sent him a letter inviting him over. He went to bid farewell to Wu Shi but found out that Wu Shi was not at home, so he left without saying goodbye. It wasn't until 4 days later that Wu Shi learned of this. Wu Shi had a servant named Wang Ji, who was smart and eloquent, and Xia was very fond of him. The two often met privately, and their relationship was close. One day, Wu Shi wanted to take Wang Ji to collect debts near the river mouth, but because Wang Ji was reluctant to leave Xia, he made up an excuse and refused to go, which led to Wu Shi rebuking him severely. Reluctantly, Wang Ji prepared to leave. Before departing, he entered Xie's room to discuss with her. Xie said, "As long as you design to kill Wu Shi outside, when you come back, I'll take care of the rest." Wang Ji eagerly agreed and left with Wu Shi. They traveled for several days and arrived in Zhejiang town, where they found a boatman named Li whom they knew from before and prepared to cross the river on his boat. At midnight, the small boat crossed the Black Dragon Pool and stopped in front of the Dragon King Temple. The boatman bought some incense, candles, and paper money for worship. Wang Ji carefully attended to Wu Shi on the boat, while Wu Shi drank heavily, and the boatman finished the worship and went to rest. In the middle of the night, Wu Shi wanted to urinate, and Wang Ji helped him to the bow of the boat. Taking advantage of Wu Shi's drunken state, Wang Ji reached out and pushed him into the river. After a while, he pretended to shout in shock. Master fell into the water. When the boatman woke up and checked, he saw that the river was deep and dark, and it was impossible to rescue anyone in such conditions. They waited until dawn, and Wang Ji said to the boatman, "There's nothing we can do. I'll have to go back and report." The boatman, however, felt suspicious but couldn't find any reason, so he reluctantly paddled the boat back to the original dock. Wang Ji hurried back to Wu's house and told Xie everything that happened on the boat. Delighted, Xie immediately ordered the house to set up a morning hall for Wu Shi but spent her days and nights drinking and reveling with Wang Ji. Although neighbors noticed, they said nothing. As for Han Man, he was preparing for an outing and happened to stroll to the town's entrance. Passing by the Riverside Pavilion, he spotted Wu Shi from afar. Rushing up to him, he asked, "What brings you here?" Wu Shi, with a haggard look and a thin body, furrowed his brows. He said to Han Man, "Since we parted ways, I've missed you terribly. I have a favor to ask, and I hope you'll help me." Han Man said, "Let's sit down and talk in the pavilion ahead." So the two walked to the pavilion and sat down. Han Man said, "Before, my uncle wrote to invite me over, and I wanted to bid you farewell before leaving, but I couldn't. Little did I expect to meet you here today, but you seem gloomy. What's happened?" Wu Shi, tears streaming down his face, said, "It's all my fault for not heeding your advice. It's ultimately led to our separation." Unaware that Wu Shi had passed away, Han Man comforted him, saying, "Brother, you're a resolute husband. Why would you say such things?" Wu Shi said, "Please forgive me. Since that day we parted ways." Wu Shi detailed the circumstances of his death, and Han Man, horrified, embraced him tightly, saying, "Are you telling the truth? If this is indeed true, I will help you. Do you remember if anyone saw you fall into the water that day?" Wu Shi said, "The boatman named Li at the mouth of the river should have seen it. Now that I'm dead, I've come today to bid you farewell, and I'm afraid we may never meet again." With that, Han Man suddenly felt dizzy and fainted in the pavilion, only to wake up a while later. When he went to look for Wu Shi again, Wu Shi had disappeared without a trace. Subsequently, Han Man hurried to Suzhou, bid farewell to his uncle, and said, "I received a letter from home urging me to return. I came specifically to bid you farewell, and when I have the time, I will come to see you again." Although Wu Lan tried to persuade him to stay, Han Man insisted on leaving. When Han Man returned to his village to inquire about Wu Shi's whereabouts, he learned that he had passed away 60 days ago. Han Man prepared some paper money for the funeral and came to Wu Shi's grave to weep and pay his respects. However, Xia harbored deep resentment towards him and refused to see him. Han Man returned home, pondering over how to lodge a complaint at the yamen but unsure of what to do. So, he once again went to Suzhou and confided in his uncle about the unjust death of his friend. Wu Lan said, "This is someone else's affair, and you have no concrete evidence. If you go and report it randomly, you might end up implicating yourself." Han Man smiled and said, "Wu Shi and I were close friends, and he even appeared to me in the form of a ghost to tell me about his grievances. How could I ignore such a matter?" Wu Lan said, "In that case, I heard that Bao Gong has returned to Kaifeng after rewarding the troops at the border. You can appeal to him about this matter, perhaps you can get a fair judgment." Following Wu Lan's advice, Han Man rushed to the capital overnight and arrived at the Kaifeng prefecture early the next day to file a complaint. Bao Gong listened to his plea and dispatched constables to summon Wang Ji and Xia to the yamen for questioning. Wang Ji and Xia shifted blame onto each other, refusing to admit their guilt. After several days of interrogation, the case remained unresolved. Bao Gong, after several rounds of questioning, was convinced that Wang Ji and Xia were indeed involved in adultery, but he struggled to find conclusive evidence of their murder. So, Bao Gong secretly summoned Han Man again and asked, "Since your friend entrusted this matter to you, did he mention if there were any other eyewitnesses at the ferry that day?" Han Man replied, "There's a boatman named Li at the mouth of the river who might know about this." Bao Gong immediately sent Constable Huang Xing to search for the boatman at the mouth of the river and bring him back to the yamen for questioning. The boatman told Bao Gong, "On that late night, after Mr. Wu fell into the water, his servant woke me up. But by the time I got up to see, Mr. Wu had already fallen into the water and couldn't be saved." Bao Gong then brought Wang Ji back to the courtroom. When he saw the boatman standing nearby, he turned pale with fear, not waiting for Bao Gong to question him before confessing the truth. Bao Gong then compiled Wang Ji's statement into a document and sentenced him and Xia to death, to be executed immediately. As a token of gratitude for the boatman's help, Bao Gong also gave him some money and sent him home. Later, after Han Man helped Wu Shi seek justice, he learned that Wu Shi had a grown daughter. He decided to have his son marry Wu Shi's daughter. After their marriage, Han Man entrusted all his property to the couple and treated his friend's daughter as his own. Alright. Today's case story, Riverside Pavilion, concludes here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave your comments and share with others. See you again in the next issue.